Welcome back. The twists and turns continue in the Sonali Phogat murder investigation with two of her aides under the scanner and the stunning revelation that she was force-fed drugs. We have now accessed a 15-page dossier of the Goa police, which reveals that Sonali's PA, that is personal assistant Sudhir Sangwan, has confessed to the drug angle. Here are the exclusive details that we have accessed. Sudhir Sangwan, her personal assistant, come her strategist, come her manager, procured MDMA worth 12,000 rupees through the hotel boy. They were putting up at a hotel which was booked for 2 nights. Sonali, Sudhir and Sudhir's aide and friend Sukhwinder consumed MDMA inside the hotel room. Then Sudhir carried the remaining MDMA to Curly's club, and all of them, 3 of them, that is Sonali, Sukhwinder and Sudhir, consumed it again at the Curly's club. Sonali started feeling uneasy and she vomited due to overdose. Sudhir Sangwan then left MDMA packet inside flush tank of Curly's ladies' toilet, and that's one of the footage that we have in which she is being, accompanied by him to the ladies' toilet, where she was there for good 2.5 hours. The Goa police has also arrested the owner of Curly's restaurant, Edwin Nunes, in connection with the investigation. Meanwhile, the NCB, that is the Narcotics Control Bureau, has also joined the investigation to trace the source of this drug. The family of Sonali Phogat has urged that the government should hand over this case to the CBI, but multiple questions remain unanswered. How did Sonali Phogat receive blunt force trauma or injury? Because that's what the post-mortem report is saying. Were her aides, that is Sudhir Sangwan and Sukhwinder, were they the ones who were they told by someone to give her drugs? Why was cause of death first ruled as a heart attack? This is a clear case of omission by the Goa police. Who would have really gained from her death? Is there a larger conspiracy? Remember, the family says that Sudhir Sangwan, who is now the prime accused, the main accused in this case, knew about all her bank accounts, the property details, and he was the one who had this motive of killing her. This is subject of investigation, but as we said, that this is a case of murder most foul. Let's bring in the guests. Derek Almeida is former editor of the Goan Daily. We also have Vikram Singh, former DGP of UP. Vikram Singh, every day the detail that is emerging is making this case even more complex. The question that I wish to ask is the Goa police guilty of omission? Did they not investigate the case from the word go? Because initially they came to this conclusion that this is a case of heart attack, when there are also this angle of drug overdose and as well as blunt force injuries.
Maria, your opening remarks said it all. This is a murder most foul, and yes, a professional investigator could not just have swept underneath the carpet the ante-mortem injuries on the person of the deceased. And if the ante-mortem injuries were there, the first drawn conclusion, the common sense, is that it is not a suicide. It can't be a heart attack. One doesn't inflict injury on oneself, even if it's a heart attack. And then when the post-mortem says cause of death could not be ascertained, viscera preserved, and there's so much of the local police supposed to know, because of beat information and of course actionable intelligence, what was happening in the Curly's bar or cafe, and whatever was happening, the CCTV footages, they should have come to the conclusion, because it takes around 12 hours minimum to get the post-mortem report. The ante-mortem injuries, the question of why, and I will try to answer why the story of heart attack was floated, Maria, in the sense that those people who were responsible for the death and the murder of Sonali were also privy to the fact of the deep pockets of the deceased. And therefore, I wouldn't be surprised that they manipulated this story, floated this story to get an escape route and also help themselves.
But they knew that they cannot really get away, because Derek Almeida, the post-mortem talks about blunt force injuries. There is a clear case of MDMA as well now. The Goa police investigation dossier that has been accessed by CNN News 18 talks about the drug angle, that this is a case of drug overdose. My question to you is that has the Goa police managed to establish the motive behind this drug overdose? Was this a case of just a drug overdose, which, drug party or some kind of party having gone wrong, or was there a criminal intent in it?
According to the evidence that we have on the table at the moment, and you just said it, they were consuming drugs in the hotel. They bought those drugs, the MDMA, from a room boy in the hotel where they were residing. So if they have consumed it there, you see, and then they came to Curly's bar, it means that's the amount of time it took for the drug to act. Now, in the case of whether it's intentional, not intentional, there's a lot of investigation to be done. But one thing you need to remember is the purity of MDMA is always questionable. These are not drugs that are manufactured by pharmaceutical companies where the consistency is the same throughout. If they have bought 10 tablets, there's possibility that some had high concentration.
But they are readily available in Goa. The fact is that in this particular case as well, Sudhir Sangwan purchased it from the hotel boy.
Yes. He purchased it from the hotel boy. They consumed it and they came to Curly's. And that's where everything started going wrong. Okay. So, I mean, at this stage, unless they can prove how these two men are going to gain from her death, and you can prove that it was given intentionally, murder becomes very difficult. You see, there are two sections that I put. One is murder, the other one is section 328, which is giving poison or drugs to someone with the intention of committing a crime. To me, 328 is the more important section and not murder. I think murder has just been put in there at this moment to handle the political fallout of this whole case.
Yes, but when we talk about the intent in itself, Vikram Singh, when you put a section like 328, you do talk about the criminal intent. You talk about the intent to damage someone, and that is the reason why this drink was spiked. Did she know about the fact that she was consuming drugs? Yes, because that's what the Goa police report is suggesting. But the quantity of drug that she could have managed and the entire body reacting the way it did, was there intent to kill her, and that is the reason why it was a case of an overdose.
Maria, I'm so happy that you raised this point. This is the tragedy of drug addiction. First, get the victim addicted to drugs. You just require about 3 doses and the person is hooked on for a life, unless there is tremendous rehabilitation program, which normally doesn't happen. 3 doses first, and get the victim addicted and hooked to drugs, then start with small doses, then increase the doses. And when the doses increase, the victim will eat out of the hands of a manipulative drug administrator. And this is exactly how things happen, that they were in fact, I mean, it cannot be something that it is out of magnanimity that the deceased was converted from a normal person to a drug addict. The purpose was very, very malicious, and the malicious purpose was primarily, what can it be except gain, and gain would have happened only after the death. She was so trusting, as I said before, that the victim would eat out of the hands of the person who is trying to...
That's right.
Accused number one.
Yes.
And therefore, I would say that it is very clear that the gain and the deep pockets the deceased had, and probably Surinder Sangwan had his eyes on the bank account of the deceased, and therefore it is a whole story. And the entire plot of many Agatha Christie novels are based on this.
Yes, Derek Almeida and Vikram Singh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
This is a story we'll continue to track very, very closely, because there are several twists and turns and also details that are emerging from investigation in Goa almost every day. The Goa police has also gone to Haryana now to get more details on Sudhir Sangwan, who is the main accused in this case. That's all from me. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching.